Hello, everybody. Today, I am excited to welcome Valerie to the show. Valerie is a visionary behind Active Kreative, a unique platform focused on well-being through creativity, movement, art therapy. At Active Kreative, Valerie uses the power of art therapy to help individuals express, explore, and connect with themselves on a deeper level. So her approach combines active engagement, mindfulness, artistic expression, empowering her clients to experience holistic growth and wellness. Valerie, it's a pleasure to have you with me today.
Thank you so much, Rob, for inviting me. Such a pleasure to be on your podcast.
So we're just talking about how everything that Valerie does is in the right brain space, and I'm so left brain, it's crazy. And normally I wear the suit, and I'm trying to just chill out a little bit here. So hopefully we can see
Yeah.
we can see what we can do here. Because, for instance, my left brain, your picture behind you is troubling me. It's like the lemons aren't lined up. It's not in the center of the frame. It's challenging my left left thinking brain. But anyway,
So
tell us.
usually that's what happens. So our analytical brain, as I call it, left brain, is for fixing and finding solutions and analyzing what's happening. And that's what's the purpose of that brain is, to analyze everything around you, consider situations and then fix it or problem solve or, find the way to use it in your life,
And that's what
right?
I condition
And
myself to
that's
do all day, every day.
and that's what it's for. It's what
Yeah.
it's meant to, for us to survive and find food and find shelter and find companionship. We need to use it. So the reason that we use in art therapy the right brain is to go into your subconscious. So things that your brain doesn't allow you to see or is hiding you to protect you. Most of the time, when we go through challenging situations or just information that is bringing us fear or panic attacks or um, emotional states, our brain can't process it. So it goes into our subconscious. And to get it out and analyze it, you need to bring it out to your brain to accept it. And that's the first thing you do in art therapy is to create that safe space where your left brain can say, okay, I'm safe to open up and understand what's going on here and how can I analyze it and use it in my life as a tool or get rid of it because it doesn't serve me.
So
And yeah,
sorry, keep going.
and for you, for example, if you finding that your brain is constantly analyzing and trying is helping you in your life to find solutions and make the best out of your life, to give it a break is actually creating a space for it to come up something new, to open up something that your brain is not available to see because it's always focusing on something that it knows that it's safe, and then it doesn't give an opportunity to evolve or like go behind it and further because it's always trying to control. So that's where you're, you know going through a different process, you allow it to rest, um, and then opening yourself, first of all subconscious, all the trauma or fears that you had to process it, and then from this next stage of you go into the creative intuitive process of growth where your brain can actually use it later, because everything that comes from the right side your brain will analyze later with your left side, but it opens up that new experience.
So where I was exposed to it the first time was with my daughter when she was in hospital, and they used in the eating disorder wing, they would use art therapy to help them. Maybe you can talk in a bit more detail about how that helps. My feeling was they were really using it as a distraction for them from their illness, and they were just spending so much time in bed and not allowed to move and all that kind of stuff. Um, what's the is that fair to say? It's really just a distraction tool, but
So,
obviously you use it for other
obviously,
things.
the hospital has their own policies on how to use art therapy because I'm transpersonal art therapist. So we have a full-on method on how to help people to release all the emotions when they're going through something, to actually help the body to process what's happening with them. So by using art tools or art therapy, it's not just drawing and just relaxing and as a distraction. It's actually to bring it up onto the surface, what's happening, and process it through art in a safe space. So when people in hospital using art therapy, um, and you find it as the way to distract from what's happening and get rid of usual environment and just uh, have some comfort, it's actually usually the art therapist that provides that services opens up a space for person to release their emotions. If there's something they're holding, like anger at the situation, feeling guilty for feeling frustration, they have the full space, like when children they're going through uh tantric and full on fear or scary episodes in their life, they have this opportunity to just scream and cry with no uh desire to stop. So that space is lost as we're getting older. We don't have that space to open up every emotion that we hold. And art therapy allows you to go into that space because somebody's holding that container for you to release everything. And when you release, there's a lot of physically mental things happening within your body, like the dopamine or all the hormones release through that process that actually helps your body to process. Your immune system gets better. It's that holding on to a lot of emotions that blocks us from being healthy, and it triggers other things. So art therapy, especially in hospital, and in different forms in therapy, it allows you to create that safe space to release all the emotions that you're closing yourself up. And usually emotions, they get stuck into the cells, into our physical cells. And a lot of in my approach, I use a lot of somatic exercises during the process. So we actually use the body to release it, so we can find where in the body you hold that emotion, and then by doing movements, attunements, rhythmic attunements, or physical exercises to actually release that uh, fear that you would have or stuck energy that you have through the body. Because during the opening of that emotion, people could feel a panic attack starting from their lungs, right?
Mm.
Connecting to that emotion, or they feel like claustrophobic into their hands. So that's where usually you'll have your emotions, uh, fear cells still there holding that space and not allowing you to release it. So by doing special activities like from somatic exercises, you allow that fear to come through out of your body.
So the
So
way that you work with it, do you, I'm just trying to imagine it. So if you're
So, for example, we use a lot of polyvagal exercises,
a lot of
which
what?
polyvagal. So we have this nerve at the back of the spine that holds all
Right.
our nervous system, and by creating a space where you can activate that nerve to release um, and make sure that you feel safe. So that nerves, by doing special exercises, allows your brain to give a signal that you are safe and you can go into your parasympathetic nervous system, which means you relax and you open up. So you're not in survive mode, you are in accepting mode. So yeah, like physical exercises like holding, special sports, and then open up like a chest, opening the lungs, making sure you feel in your body. So it is a lot of somatic activities that allows your body to give signal, and then the signal goes into your brain and allows you to open up your subconscious mind and say, okay, now I can release everything that actually behind my left brain that is trying to protect me, and I can share it. And that's where the magic happens.
So then at what part is this transposing to the art side? And are you saying, okay, we're thinking about, I don't know, a certain element of what you're feeling and now express that on paper kind of thing? Like, is it very instructional? Okay, we are now doing this phase, so
Yeah, so I
express
have four
yourself, whatever.
stages. Yeah, so basically every therapy goes into four stages. And the first stage is that creating that space and intention of what we working through.
Hmm.
So you decide, okay, I want to work through my fear, or I want to open up, if it's a business goal, or if it's like a personal relationship. So you have the intention of why come into the therapy. And then the second stage is to go through that process of allowing your brain. So it's usually polyvagal exercises, breathing. So it's physical exercises, or
Hmm.
we use bilateral drawing, which using two hands to draw so your brain is
Okay.
balanced, right? So you have that's different, depends on the intention. I'd select which exercises to use to open up subconscious. And the next stage, when you open like a flower, everything's exposed. So you have all the emotions coming through, you have everything that was tied is opening, and that's where you can mold it. So that's where you put it out on a paper. You can use it, vocally. You can start talking about it because the messages are coming through of where it's, you know, blocking you. Or you can throw things, you can mold it with clay. So I depends on the situation. I choose the art materials, or the client chooses the art materials, and then we shape it on using your left brain from this moment to create an understanding of what happened. So that's an activation form of
Hmm.
understanding what is this, how to use it, how to get rid of it if it no longer serves you, or how to rewire it in a way that you want with your brain. So you don't, go into like creative flying away. You're actually using your brain here to understand how can I use that emotion that I was holding into creating something new in my life. And that's where the process is actually hard, because a lot of people, they don't want to get rid of things because the body is used to holding that, fear, or because it helped them along the life, to survive. So that's a space of transformation where you go into that uncomfortable place, and then rewire yourself and see how you can use it with your brain, and then put it on paper so your brain actually sees that it's possible. So your brain doesn't understand the difference if it happened in your life, or you put it on
Imagine it.
paper,
Yeah.
right? So it's the same. So when you actually draw it, or you write it down, or you mold it with clay, your brain thinks already happened in your life. So that's a creation of new neural paths in your brain that happened, and your brain feels comfortable. It doesn't have any more fear or resistance to it. And then
Yes.
from there, it's my job is to ground you back. So we finish in the last stage is grounding, to make sure that you feel your body. So I use tapping, or I use same oils, or like depends on the person, but I use something that connects your focus so you can feel that you're back into reality. You're not wandering with your thoughts or feel lost. And that's how I close the session. And then usually that's the everything happens, the transformation happens after. So because you have been exposed to your subconscious, and then your brain will make a path of how to make it work into your life. So you will start analyzing what you've experienced, and using that new rewiring that you've opened yourself up, you actually start thinking of how to make it possible in your life. And that's where you fully engage with your left brain, with your analytical brain. And that neuropath becomes stronger because you don't have fear to go into the unknown. You've already experienced it during the session in a safe space.
So who's your ideal client?
Everyone who's going through transition of life cycles, um,
What does that mean for
so
the
we
left
go,
brain thinking
yeah.
people?
So
What does
we
that
go
mean?
a whole life, we always changing, right? So we go through life transitions. We become an adult at we start taking a new job, then we become parents. So every stage is a transition into new life cycle where you have to reinforce yourself to find who you truly are, not what your society's making you to be, but what you actually want. And that's where, for me, is the most ideal client is the person who's trying to find themselves, to understand what they are, who they want to be. And then I'm there to help them to create that space, the holder, the container, to understand, so what do I don't want to have in my life, I can get rid of, to build what I want, and that's amazing because from that space where it's like in a dream, and I do a lot of dream work, you can actually live, create something in your dreams, something that you would love your life to be.
And
And
what about
then,
those people that don't know what it
yeah,
is that they want?
most of us, we don't know, and that's where I have a lot of techniques to help you guide, um, to understand what you want, or what was put by your parents, by society, by the place you were born. And that's why it's always in transition, because when you're comfortable in your life and you feel like everything's settled, you're resistant to change, right? But when you go through transition, your brain is opening to find solutions and find, like, where do I actually want to be. And that's my help, is there just to create a holder container for them to experience what they want with no fear that something goes wrong. Write it on paper, put it on paper, and see if you want to be in that life that you want to create. And then from there, go and creating it.
So in some ways, what you're explaining sounds a little complicated,
Mm-hmm.
but in another way, perhaps it's not. But is it something? I mean, we can talk at the end how people can get in touch with you. But is this something that people, or what can they do by themselves? So before you answer, I have some clients that have said to me before that they do the I don't know what it's called. Um, is those pictures that have like 60 million different little squares in the picture, and you've got to color
Yeah.
in each little, I don't know what you call it, but
Yeah. Those drawing by
yeah, yeah,
hand.
yeah. And they say, oh, that really helps relax me, and
Mm.
that kind of stuff. Some people do crosswords, some people do. I've got a client that does paint by numbers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's some therapeutic aspect of switching off the rest of your life and just focusing on doing what you're doing in the task. But are there some things that are maybe more sophisticated than that that people can do on their own to get some benefits from art therapy, or how would people approach it?
Yeah. So those mindful drawing and drawing by numbers or any other, it's not actually art therapy. It is just an art activity that helps you to relax, to do puzzles or
Yeah,
gardening. It is
yeah.
part of, getting into creative flow, feeling like you don't feel the time and just passing it by and feel relaxed and better, right? So art therapy is actually therapeutic. So it has a benefit in terms, it helps you to go from one stage to another. It's transitioning you from one stage to another. So you would have some insights, or usually uh, the best way to understand what art therapy is in your life is to, when you sit down and you have a strong emotion, to put it on paper. Some people do it in writing, or put it in color, and you'll just notice how it makes you feel when you're overthinking. Like if you are overthinking, uh, just put it all on paper in whatever form it happens for you. So that's therapy, So you have a
Yeah.
problem, you use tools that are not your brain, it's not coming from thinking, it actually projects onto something, and then looking at it, see how you feel on the projection of it. So that's the therapeutic work. So when
So
you
would
do
it
drawing, you don't actually project your emotions there. You
So would
just,
it be like, say you're going for a massage
mm-hmm.
and the obviously you're just lying there for half an hour, whatever. You're feeling stuff through the session. I like deep tissue massage. And
Yes.
so the actual motion can feel nice. Certain pressure points can hurt, etc. You leave the session, you think, well, kind of feel better because I just spent a time out and somebody's massaged
Yeah.
my body and stuff. But the real benefit doesn't normally come for a couple of days later as you're drinking more water, you're flushing out the
Yeah.
toxins and all that kind of stuff. And because immediately after, you're not really sure, well, did that help me or did that not help me?
Exactly. Yeah.
But then a couple of days later, you say, actually, that did help because now the sort of like if you know, have you ever had cupping? You know what I'm talking about? If you
Yes,
have cupping
exactly. Yeah.
and you've got the sore marks and think,
Yeah.
man, that looks terrible, but it actually helps, you know, draw out the inflammation and so forth. And then in 2, 3, 4 days time, you actually feel better. And it sounds like from what you're explaining, this is kind of a little bit the same thing. There might
Yeah.
be some sense of, because I was going to ask you what does success look like, but it sounds like it's a maybe some sort of realization or not a
Yeah.
cure, but maybe there's some more clarity.
Yes. So basically, um, talk therapy, when you're familiar with talk therapy, which is psychotherapy. So when you go to someone, your friend or your relatives, and you tell everything what happened to you, and all of a sudden you just feel that relief,
Yeah, by getting it out
that
of your head. Yeah.
yes, right? So, and obviously the parents or anyone, they have their own projection of what you just said, and they will put it on you. But with therapy itself, if it's psychotherapist, it would guide you to how to help you, right? With no projection of their own personal. So the same with art therapy. With art therapy, you put it out on the paper, whatever happens to you, and you already feel better because you got it out of your mind. It's
Right.
physically in front of you, you see it, and your brain processes it like you actually done something with your hands. So
Yeah.
because you have all the sensory activities and you put some work, so your left brain is telling you, okay, something has been done. There's a release of hormones happened as an achievement, and then you would have later on some insights,
Yeah.
so there's a physical part of it, of actually projecting it into art, into writing, or just like putting it into some form of how you feel. And then later on, because you made space for something new to come, you will have new insights that will come after, like a massage, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you would feel the benefits later because your brain is opening up to experience something new.
So maybe this is maybe a couple of questions in one here. So you're Ukrainian, you've come from, you know, war-torn
So I
so,
came to
so
Australia
forth.
18 years ago, right?
Okay. Because of like just wanting to
I
escape.
came here to study. Yeah.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
came here to study visual arts.
Right. So well, so the first part of the question is what brought you to doing what you're doing now? And I thought maybe it's come out of some past
Yeah.
trauma for you and so forth to think this is where I want to spend my time. And the second part of the question was, you know, what you were explaining, it sounds complex and you would really need to have somebody walk you through the steps if you wanted to do this effectively. How do you do it for yourself?
Mm.
Like what, how do you do it for you?
So all my life I was painting, like that painting.
Yeah. Which is troubling my left brain.
Yes.
We need to
So
move it over.
coming, from Ukraine, I was painting since I was little, and that was my way of expressing. So I grew up with a family of very left brain hand like brain people. So my dad is a banker, mom worked in insurance, my brother worked in economy and tax. So I was the person that
You're the
was
black
very,
sheep.
yes, I was a black sheep, and my way of process everything was to just hide and draw.
Okay.
And I didn't know that was therapy. I just thought I liked drawing.
I'm having fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the whole career happened that I became a designer, I was an artist, and I came to Australia to study visual art. So I didn't know until the war that it's not just a way to, use your creative talents. It was always the way to process everything that happens to me and put it into image and have my story talk through the image. So when the war happened, I already built it up this brand, and I understood during COVID, I understood really that people need some creative getaway, a
Mm,
tool that they can process their emotions while doing something with their hands.
yeah.
So I was creating it, but when the war happened on that day, when they started bombing, my heart just felt like there's no way back. I literally have to use, my creative tools to help millions rather than just creating a getaway for people to relax. So that's how I went into creating the safe space for Ukrainian refugees who would come to Australia. And then we had a full in integration of different techniques, and that's where the body, like a
Okay.
difficult trauma, that's where the body comes in, because the trauma that they come through you can't process just with your left brain. There's no your brain can't explain things like that, and nobody can. There's no answers. So that's how art therapy is the only tool that can help you to process that trauma, because it just releases everything. And we use a lot of breath work to go through the body, through the cells, and then ground yourself. And then somatic exercises by, that I was guided by so many people from around the world to create these techniques that I'm using now at Active Creative, because they were helping Ukrainians, and I was exposed to it. And it's a combination of therapies, attunement, music therapy, expressive therapy, then
Mm.
somatic exercises. I was trained by Danish famous somatic body dynamic trainer that is helping Invictus Games. They train the
Oh, yeah.
Invictus. Yeah.
Yep.
So they trained me on how to use it during the war times, and they actually help Ukrainians at war to process, the bombing. So it's amazing. It is switching off your brain, stop analyzing, get it out of your body, and then work through it.
So
Um,
for you, is there some irony in perhaps you doing some drawing now?
I daily, yes, I was
So
always doing it. I just didn't have an awareness until I started studying art therapy and realizing, oh, I was doing it all my life. And uh, I didn't understand how therapeutic it was to process everything that happened to me, because I was painting, I was drawing, I was creating photography, I was, using video. Like visual arts is basically using all visual modalities to create an artwork. So yeah, that's
so
what I
when
was
you're
doing.
when you're drawing though now, are you
I have
able
an
to?
intention. So before
Yeah,
I
I was
was
going to
just,
say, do
yeah,
you now find because of what you do that every time you draw now, well, it's got to have a purpose, and you're over like rather than just like
yeah,
think back to when you were a kid and you're just like, oh, well, I'm
yeah,
painting
yeah,
lemons or whatever. Now it's like, well, I'm doing this and I'm making sure I'm getting this thought out or
yes.
this stress out and so forth.
So, for example, I live in a blended family, so we have kids from different marriages, and when a situation comes up for me, how I don't know how to resolve, and it's emotional, it's the biggest excitement for me. So as soon as I have some challenging situation, I just take a paper and pencil, whatever I have. I need 15 minutes. I put it on paper and I work through it using like neurographic techniques or different techniques to
Yeah, yeah.
actually resolve it on the paper for me to understand. And then it's done. Now I know what to do. So yeah,
Are
it's
you drawing peaceful things? Or are you drawing like you holding the husband's head
there's no,
and is
yeah, so
anything
there's no
violent and
actual
horrible?
drawing. It's actual process of lines,
Okay,
and just colors that make you, to just process with your brain of where you're going to make
okay.
solutions. There's no, you don't need to, create an actual artwork of what happens. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. My left brain does. I'm drawing the person, I'm stabbing them,
Yeah.
yeah, all that. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Uh, so a couple more questions, then we'll share your details, how people can get in touch. What would you say then is, I like to ask people this, what's your superpower? What do you think your superpower is?
So yeah, I was born with creativity. That I just thought it, just I'm just creative, like I like to draw. But then when you use your talent that you're born with and you can actually make it a tool that transforms people, like, and if probably the war in Ukraine never happened, I wouldn't know the full potential it has, because
Right.
I would never go into psychiatric wards or something, like, because I was scared of that. So when the war happened, I was just exposed to that deep trauma of, death and situation, that I had to use it as my tool of power to help people to transform. And I saw, like, after 3 weeks, 2 weeks of just drawing what happened, and or where they are, they found a new life and they integrated into society.
Mm,
And probably it's a life of every immigrant, that comes through the door of Australia to integrate into community. And it's such an amazing tool when you just have somebody that holds your hand to go through it,
mm.
any life situation. That's definitely a superpower.
Yeah, nice. And well, second last question. What would you say is the greatest advice you've ever received?
I think the advice is focus on yourself first. Because when you say, even during the workshop that I do, a lot of people start projecting and say, we live in society, we live. So the best advice is to say, and think of your life, because everything that happens in your life is projection to the whole world. So when you focus on yourself first, not on your kids or like your relationship or your cat, you go back to yourself first, and that's where everything will change if you start looking at yourself.
Do you really do that? I don't know
Yeah.
any woman that has young kids that puts themselves before their kids. It normally goes kids, their partner, the dog, the fish, and you come in last. So
It is part of a woman's, signature to,
oxytocin, yeah.
yeah, to help and nurture. But then I just found my, creativity being the tool to help even my family, because now, um, when I'm with them, they also involve with art therapy. It's part of,
Okay.
their life now.
That's
So
because the
because
woman
it's all
rules
about me.
the woman rules the house and say, right, we are now doing art
Drawing.
therapy. Sit
Yeah.
down, be quiet, and we're
That's
drawing. It's
it.
like, oh, can't we just do something else, Mom? Yeah.
Yeah. And
All right.
my son is not, I was pushing him to do that, and he was really resistant when he was little.
Yeah, because he wants
And
to be a
now he just,
banker.
no, he, yeah, he wants to be a car designer. So
Oh,
now
there
he
you
just
go.
goes by himself and does it. And I can see that later on, it's also the way he understood it. It was part of his normality, that mommy is drawing and that's
Mm.
her time. It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
now it's my
Well,
time, I go draw.
ironically, in my family, both my girls very, very creative, love their visual arts and so forth. So yeah, fantastic. Now you run some workshops and you do some one-on-one
Mm.
stuff as well. So what is the best? I'll put the links below the podcast, but what is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yes, on my website, I have constantly I'm updating it with everything. And I'm on Instagram most of the time.
Okay, so
But
Active Creative, that's creative
Active
with a
Kreative
K,
with a
isn't it?
K.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So creative with a K. And I just feel like when people are searching for something, they don't know what, you know, I'm probably the place to come, because I can guide them to understand where they want to be.
So, given that you're working with people all over, I'm assuming this is something people can do online. It doesn't have to be in
Yes.
person.
So that's why I'm working now. I'm working through the product line. because I understand that I'm not available for everyone. So I really want to create a product that people can use themselves, because obviously you don't always need to have that person sitting next to you if you have the tool in front of you, and as I said, my son is already doing that, and I can see how he implemented at 9 years old into his life. So yeah, I'm working through the tools that people can, as like therapy home kit,
Hmm.
where they have different materials and they have guidance and they just sit down for themselves with, giving time for themselves and go through that process. So I don't need
Yeah,
to be,
lovely.
yeah.
Lovely, lovely. Well, Valerie, this has been great having you on the show and giving us an insight into how you work with your art therapy and everything. I encourage everybody to, you're looking for something perhaps you haven't tried before, to go and give it a go. I'll put the link below. Um, yeah, it's been really informative, really interesting.
Thank you
Uh,
so much. I hope
Valerie,
you'll try it.
sorry, me. Oh, geez, I don't know. A stick figures is my art therapy. That's about as good as I get. Um, Barry, I'm going to give you the closing words. So, what would you like to say to everybody that's listening? Give them some words of wisdom.
Yes, I would like people to focus their energy where they want their life to be, and using their fear to guide them and open up for something new, not to be scared of hiding. So we use the fear and pain to actually direct us where to go. Yes.
Yeah, nice advice. Well done. Thanks so much, Valerie.
Thank you.